Hi, everybody. It's Coach Debbie. How are you? Good morning. I am half of Momsanity. The other half is Coach Emily, who's probably pumping or changing a diaper right now. So you notice that the title of this broadcast, Restricted, Addicted, Obsessed. So I wanted to talk about cravings this morning with you. And if you're watching live, chances are you probably don't have a lot of cravings at the beginning of the day. But as the day progresses from like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, probably until midnight, that's when the cravings really amp up, right? And it's the same thing day after day after day. So maybe you're in the situation where you restrict yourself all day with calories, or you're eating really good. And then slowly as the sun sets, that's when you start to cave into cravings. I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but I know that I sure can. It's really hard to say no to our temptations. And I'm so thankful that God's word says that there's no temptation that we can't escape. And that's me paraphrasing, but that God provides this way out when cravings can strike. So when I was little, my mom tells me that I was standing in my crib as a little baby and I was screaming, crying. And she runs in to see why is little baby Debbie screaming and crying in her crib. And I was pulling my hair. So I'm pulling my hair and screaming and crying as an infant because it hurt. But I was the one pulling my own hair. So I was doing it to myself, pulling my own hair in the crib, screaming, crying. So she's trying to like loosen my hands so that I would stop pulling my hair and making myself cry. I wonder if cravings are a little bit like that. They're kind of a self-inflicted cycle that we just feel like we cannot break free from. We're like, I'm pulling my own hair and making myself cry. I'm letting myself get so stressed out during the day that, of course, I have to compensate with food or drinks, right? And I'm right there with you. Maybe you feel like at night you need to cope with a glass of wine, or you're rewarding yourself for finally being done in the motherhood game for the day by talking with Ben and Jerry. Everybody's cravings are a little bit different, but the thing is, I feel like if we keep giving into temptation, then we're pulling our own hair and making ourselves cry, because then we end up looking in the mirror and we're frustrated, like, hey, who told that cellulite that it was allowed to live on my thighs? Right? And so we get obsessed with our body image. We become obsessed with, I can't wait until I have that glass of wine. And we're addicted, whether we want to admit it or not. We try to restrict it during the day, but by the end of the day, the willpower can often lead to failure, which then creates the cycle of, well, that must mean I'm a failure. And I will never change. And I'm always going to be fat. We start feeding these lies, which ultimately is what the enemy wants. The enemy's like, that's right. He's going to keep whispering in our ears because he's crafty and saying, you're right. You are a fat loser. You will always fail. And you deserve that wine. You should have that ice cream. When really, what if we could see those cravings, which might never go away? Those temptations, I mean, if Jesus was tempted, we can count on being tempted. If they're never going to go away, can we see them through the different lens of saying, what if this is from God? What if God has allowed, not for Satan to be whispering in our ears, but what if God is saying, hi, hey, remember me? What if we're trying to cram that square peg in the round hole, right? We're trying to fill something that food and wine cannot fill. That only God can fill. That he's saying, I would love for you to just surrender. Instead of clenching your fists, I would love for you to let this go. It's not going to work. So here's kind of a crazy story that I haven't told a lot of people. When well, I don't really know how to tell the time, but Jason at some point was dating a really sweet girl. She was really nice. And what happened was she was like, well, we're going to get married, of course, because we're a great match. And she just adored him. And he was like, well, we probably will get married. That makes sense, because he wanted a family and he wanted a wife. And so they were compatible enough where it was probably going to happen at some point. And so then enters Debbie into the picture, where I'm talking with Jason saying, okay, so is she amazing? Is she just to die for? Like, I got to put a ring on that. I got to stake like my claim with property. And he was like, well, it just kind of makes sense. You know, this is what I do. And so ultimately he learned that this was not the right fit. It was so close. And it was very happy, and there was a lot of contentment. But in the end, what he described to me was the square peg in the round hole. You're trying to make it work, and we're kind of leaving God out of the picture when he has a much better plan, which for Jason's story was this. So I don't know if he really got the good end of the deal or not. So that's kind of like a loose analogy, but that's something to think about. Like, are we trying to fill something with pastries and cookies? And God is like, I just want your heart. It's not about your stomach. It is about your soul. And why don't you come to me in those moments? Can you be vulnerable and be willing to say no to the craving, to say no to that temptation, and actually fill it with something much more satisfying that doesn't lead to guilt or shame when it's all said and done, when we're licking our fingers because we've emptied the carton of ice cream. Instead, we can say, you know what? I think I made the better choice. I prayed with God, or I mean, getting down on your knees. There's something really powerful about physically getting on your knees. I think there's something equally powerful about praying out loud instead of just in our minds, because we also get distracted when we think our prayers. But praying out loud, like in that moment, I will not be mastered by this. I will change direction. I'm tired of doing this, and I will not be controlled by food. Like, Lord, please help me. And then to go read his word, because his word never returns void. His word is living and active and designed to help us. And so what we're getting ready to start with Momsanity is our spin on Lisa Turker's book, Made to Crave. So we're calling it CRAVE, and it's a 28-day journey of surrender that we want you to be a part of. We are inviting you as fellow weak women who have really struggled with restriction, addiction, obsession about food. How can we do things in a way that honors God and is not so freaking gluttonous? So I've put the link in the broadcast title for you to join so that you're getting all the information. So this is like a no obligation link. You're not like committed and signed up and under contract, all these crazy things. This is just to keep you in the loop because we're not quite ready to get started. We are really thinking that this is going to be your game changer, what finally changes everything. Hi, Claire. Yes. When we cut out all that junk, we become more aware of it. And it is a drug. It really is a drug. And you're right, those cravings can feed themselves. We crave what we expose ourselves to, right? So if we are constantly having a nightly glass of wine, we will keep craving that nightly glass of wine. But if we stop having the nightly glass of wine, which I'm not telling you have to do, then we slowly have those cravings go away, which sometimes means we have to say no. So I love how you said that, Claire, that it does kind of, when we're so busy crunching the chips, we can't hear his voice. Kathy, I think we should definitely discuss this at our Momsanity retreat, which is in, oh my word, 8 days, which I'm so excited to get away from my family and responsibilities in the home front. But I would love to hear kind of what your strategies are, not so much about things you do or anything like that, but how God and your cravings kind of intersect and then change happens, because we want to learn from you as we do this journey. That very much Emily and I talked on Tuesday night. We were in the car together and we were talking about CRAVE, and we said, this is so exciting. This is exactly what we all need. And then we kind of looked at each other and said, yeah, we actually need this. It's not just that we're the experts and we've arrived and we're just going to unload all this information. It's like, yeah, can we all put our arms around each other and move forward together as a team? So you are invited to CRAVE with us, because we do think that cravings are actually a God thing, even if it's kind of a God thing in disguise. And I would love for you to put any questions that you have in the comments below. I'm going to go check on my dogs, because sometimes silence means that shoes are getting eaten. But I'm going to put that link in comments as well, so that you can make sure you are on the information list. So tonight, if those cravings strike, or maybe this afternoon, as you're doing homework with the kids, if it happens, I want you to pause for that moment and just be intentional and say, wait a minute, the food doesn't have to control me. I don't have to say yes. I can do things differently. And then take that time to, in your living room, or maybe you go to your closet, get on your knees and pray out loud, Lord, this is your moment to show up. And see what he does, really, truly, okay? So if you're just now joining the broadcast, I want you to make sure you get the whole thing. So definitely watch the replay. I hope you have a delightful day, and that the Lord blesses you beyond anything that you can ask or imagine. Have a great day. Bye.